First story. Once upon a time, in a land far away, there lived an old man and an old woman. They had been married for many years and were both very content with their lives. They lived in a small cottage in the middle of a forest and were surrounded by beautiful trees and animals. Every evening, the old man would sit in his rocking chair and tell stories to the old woman. He would tell her stories of faraway places, of brave knights and magical creatures, of daring adventures and daring deeds. The old woman would listen intently, her eyes wide with wonder, as the old man told his tales. One evening, the old man told a story about a brave knight who had gone on a quest to save a kingdom from a great evil. The knight had to battle dragons, fight off fierce warriors, and overcome powerful magic in order to save the kingdom. The old woman was so enthralled by the story that she asked the old man to tell her more. So the old man began to tell her a story about a beautiful princess who was cursed by an evil witch. The princess had to travel far and wide to find a way to break the curse and save her kingdom. Along the way, she encountered many monsters and villains, but she was brave and determined and eventually found a way to break the curse and save her kingdom. The old woman was so moved by the story that she asked the old man to tell her one more. So the old man began to tell her a story about a brave knight who went on a quest to find a magical weapon that could defeat a great evil. The knight had to battle dragons, fight off fierce warriors, and overcome powerful magic in order to find the weapon. Eventually, the knight found the weapon and used it to save the kingdom from the great evil. The old woman was so delighted by the stories that she begged the old man to tell her one more. So the old man began to tell her a story about a brave knight who went on a quest to find a magical artifact that could restore peace to the kingdom. The knight had to battle dragons, fight off fierce warriors, and overcome powerful magic in order to find the artifact. Eventually, the knight found the artifact and used it to restore peace to the kingdom. The old woman was so moved by the stories that she thanked the old man for all the wonderful stories. She said that she had never heard such wonderful stories before and that she would never forget them. The old man smiled and said, "You are welcome, my dear. I am glad that you enjoyed my stories." And so, the old man and old woman lived happily ever after. Next story. Once upon a time, there was a small village nestled in the hills of a faraway kingdom. The villagers were peaceful and content with their lives, living off the land and enjoying the simple pleasures of life. One day, a stranger arrived in the village. He was a tall, handsome man with a mysterious air about him. He said his name was John and that he had come to the village in search of something. He would not say what it was, only that he needed to find it. The villagers were naturally suspicious of the stranger, but they were also intrigued by him. They welcomed him into their homes and offered him food and shelter. As time passed, John began to tell stories of his travels and the strange things he had seen. The villagers were fascinated by his tales, and they soon became his friends. John shared his knowledge of the world with them and taught them many things. He also told them of the secrets of the kingdom and its people. One night, John told the villagers of a magical place deep in the forest. He said that if they followed him, he could take them there and show them something amazing. The villagers were hesitant at first, but eventually they decided to trust John and followed him into the forest. They traveled for days until they reached a clearing in the middle of the forest. In the center of the clearing was a large stone altar with a single candle burning atop it. John told the villagers to sit around the altar and close their eyes. When the villagers opened their eyes, they were shocked to find themselves in a different world. It was a world of beauty and wonder, filled with magical creatures and breathtaking landscapes. They explored the world for days, learning about its secrets and marveling at its beauty. Finally, John told the villagers it was time to leave. He said he had found what he was looking for and that it was time for them to return home. The villagers reluctantly said goodbye to the magical world and followed John back to the village. Back in the village, John thanked the villagers for their hospitality and told them he must now leave. He said that he had found what he was looking for and that he must now go on his own journey. The villagers wished him luck and he left. The villagers never saw John again, but they never forgot the magical world he had taken them to. They told stories of their adventure to their children and grandchildren, and the memory of that magical place stayed with them forever. Next story. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a young prince named John. He was the son of a powerful king, yet he was a humble, kind-hearted man. He was beloved by all who knew him, and he had a deep respect for the natural world. One day, John decided to take a journey. He wanted to explore the lands beyond his kingdom and to see what wonders the world had to offer. He gathered a small group of his closest friends, and they set off on a grand adventure. The journey was long and difficult, but the group persevered. They encountered all sorts of creatures, from friendly animals to fierce monsters. They also encountered many strange and wondrous places, from lush forests to barren deserts. After many weeks of travel, the group came upon a large lake. As they approached, they noticed a strange sight. On the lake's shore was a small boat, but it seemed to be empty. John and his friends decided to investigate. As they got closer, they noticed a figure in the boat. It was a beautiful woman with long dark hair and pale skin. She had an aura of mystery and power about her. John and his friends were captivated. The woman introduced herself as the Lady of the Lake. She told them that she was a powerful sorceress and that she had been living in the lake for many years. She said that she could grant them any wish they had if they could answer a single question correctly. The Lady of the Lake asked them, "What is the most important thing in life?" John thought for a moment, and then he said, "Love." The Lady of the Lake smiled and said, "You are wise beyond your years, young prince. Your wish is granted." The Lady of the Lake waved her wand, and suddenly the group was transported to a beautiful castle. They were amazed at the sight, and the Lady of the Lake told them that the castle was their own, and that it would be their home from now on. John and his friends were overjoyed. They thanked the Lady of the Lake, and she gave them one final warning. "Remember, young prince, that love is the most important thing in life. Cherish it, and it will bring you joy." John and his friends lived happily in their castle for many years. They would often look out over the lake and remember the Lady of the Lake and her wise words. They never forgot the lesson she taught them, and they always kept love in their hearts. Next story. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a young princess named Aurora. She was the daughter of a great king and queen, and was beloved by all who knew her. Aurora was a beautiful young woman with long blonde hair, bright blue eyes, and a kind and gentle heart. She was always happiest when she was surrounded by her family and friends, and her days were filled with laughter and joy. One day, a mysterious stranger arrived at the castle. He was tall and handsome, with a strange and magical aura about him. The stranger introduced himself as Prince Charming, and he had come to ask the princess for her hand in marriage. The king and queen were hesitant, but they could not deny the love that was clearly growing between the two. So, they gave their blessing, and the wedding was set to take place in the coming weeks. The days leading up to the wedding were filled with preparation and celebration. Every night, Aurora and Prince Charming would spend time together talking and getting to know one another better. On the night before the wedding, Aurora was feeling a bit anxious and couldn't sleep. She decided to take a walk in the castle gardens to clear her head. As she walked, she heard a voice coming from behind a large oak tree. Startled, Aurora peered around the tree and saw a beautiful fairy. The fairy introduced herself as the fairy godmother and told Aurora that she had been sent to grant her a wish. Aurora thought for a few moments before deciding what to wish for. She wanted to be happy and in love for the rest of her life, and so she wished for eternal love between her and Prince Charming. The fairy godmother smiled and nodded in approval. She waved her wand and a beautiful, shimmering light surrounded Aurora and Prince Charming. The light was so bright that Aurora had to close her eyes. When she opened them, she and Prince Charming were standing in a beautiful meadow surrounded by stars. The fairy godmother told them that this meadow was their own special place, and that whenever they needed to escape the troubles of the world, they could come here and be together. The fairy godmother then sprinkled some magical fairy dust on them and told them that as long as they stayed true to one another, their love would last forever. Aurora and Prince Charming thanked the fairy godmother for her gift and returned to the castle. That night, as they said their goodbyes, they both knew that they would be together forever. The years passed, and Aurora and Prince Charming's love only grew stronger. They had 2 beautiful children and a happy life together. Every night, before they went to bed, they would look up at the stars and remember the night they first met in the castle gardens. And so, they lived happily ever after. Next story. Once upon a time, there was a small village nestled in the hills of a faraway kingdom. The people of the village were hardworking and honest, and they lived in peace and harmony. One day, a mysterious stranger appeared in the village. He was a tall, handsome man with dark hair and piercing blue eyes. He wore a long black cloak and carried a large, ornate staff. The stranger introduced himself as a wizard and said he had come to the village in search of a brave and noble soul who would be willing to undertake a great quest. He explained that the quest was to find a powerful magical artifact hidden deep within a hidden cave. The villagers were intrigued by the wizard's story, and all of them wanted to go on the quest, but the wizard said that only one person could go. After much debate, the villagers decided to hold a contest to decide who would be the one to go on the quest. The contest was fierce, and after a long and hard-fought battle, a young man named Arthur was declared the winner. Arthur was a brave and noble soul, and the villagers were sure he would be successful in his quest. The wizard gave Arthur a magical map and a strange-looking key. He told Arthur that the map would lead him to the hidden cave and the key would unlock the door to the cave. He also gave Arthur a magical sword and shield to protect himself on his journey. Arthur set off on his quest, determined to find the magical artifact and return home a hero. As he traveled through the countryside, he encountered many strange and dangerous creatures. He fought off the creatures with his sword and shield and eventually made it to the hidden cave. The door to the cave was locked and Arthur used the strange key to open it. Inside, he found a large chamber filled with ancient artifacts and treasures. He searched through the chamber and eventually found the magical artifact he was looking for. Arthur returned to the village with the artifact and the villagers were overjoyed. They celebrated his return and thanked him for his bravery and determination. The wizard was also pleased and gave Arthur a reward for his courage and success. From that day forward, Arthur was known as the brave and noble soul who had gone on a quest and succeeded. He became a hero in the village and the villagers were forever grateful for his courage and bravery. Next story. Once upon a time, there was a small village on the edge of the forest. The people of the village were simple but happy. They lived off the land and the animals that lived in the forest. One day, a stranger came to the village. He was tall and strong, with a wild air about him. He wore a long black cloak and kept to himself, rarely speaking to anyone. He stayed for a few days, and then left as quickly as he had come. The villagers were curious about the stranger, but none of them dared to ask him any questions. They all agreed that he must have been a powerful wizard, as he had an air of mystery and danger about him. The weeks passed, and the villagers began to forget about the stranger. But one night, a loud thunderstorm shook the village. Everyone was scared, but the stranger appeared out of nowhere and calmed the storm with a wave of his hand. The villagers were amazed and grateful, and they invited the stranger to stay with them in the village. He accepted, and the villagers welcomed him into their homes and lives. The stranger began to teach the villagers magic and how to use it to help them in their everyday lives. He also taught them how to use the power of the forest to their advantage. The villagers were fascinated by the stranger's knowledge and wisdom, and they quickly grew to love him. As time passed, the stranger grew to love the villagers as well. He taught the children stories and games, and he helped the adults with their daily tasks. He even helped the village become more prosperous, as the villagers began to use the magic he had taught them to make their lives easier. One day, the stranger announced that he was leaving. The villagers were sad to see him go, but they understood that he had his own journey to take. He thanked them for their hospitality and kindness, and he left the village with a smile on his face. The villagers never saw the stranger again, but they never forgot him. They kept the stories and games he had taught them alive, and they continued to use the magic he had taught them. The stranger had left a lasting impression on the village, and his legacy will live on for many years to come. Next story. Once upon a time, there was a small village on the edge of the forest. The people of the village were simple, but happy. They lived off the land and the animals that lived in the forest. One day, a stranger came to the village. He was tall and strong, with a wild air about him. He wore a long black cloak and kept to himself, rarely speaking to anyone. He stayed for a few days, and then left as quickly as he had come. The villagers were curious about the stranger, but none of them dared to ask him any questions. They all agreed that he must have been a powerful wizard, as he had an air of mystery and danger about him. The weeks passed, and the villagers began to forget about the stranger. But one night, a loud thunderstorm shook the village. Everyone was scared, but the stranger appeared out of nowhere and calmed the storm with a wave of his hand. The villagers were amazed and grateful, and they invited the stranger to stay with them in the village. He accepted, and the villagers welcomed him into their homes and lives. The stranger began to teach the villagers magic and how to use it to help them in their everyday lives. He also taught them how to use the power of the forest to their advantage. The villagers were fascinated by the stranger's knowledge and wisdom, and they quickly grew to love him. As time passed, the stranger grew to love the villagers as well. He taught the children stories and games, and he helped the adults with their daily tasks. He even helped the village become more prosperous, as the villagers began to use the magic he had taught them to make their lives easier. One day, the stranger announced that he was leaving. The villagers were sad to see him go, but they understood that he had his own journey to take. He thanked them for their hospitality and kindness, and he left the village with a smile on his face. The villagers never saw the stranger again, but they never forgot him. They kept the stories and games he had taught them alive, and they continued to use the magic he had taught them. The stranger had left a lasting impression on the village, and his legacy will live on for many years to come. Next story. Once upon a time, there lived a young couple in a small village. They had been married for many years and were very much in love. One night, the husband had a dream that he was walking through a beautiful forest. He felt a strange sense of peace and tranquility as he walked. He came to a clearing where he saw a magnificent castle in the distance. He was drawn to it, and as he approached, he noticed a beautiful woman standing in front of the entrance. The woman was dressed in a white gown and had long, flowing hair. She had an ethereal beauty that captivated him. She smiled at him and beckoned him to enter the castle. He followed her inside and was amazed by the grandeur of the interior. Everywhere he looked, he saw exquisite artwork and sculptures. The woman led him to a large room at the center of the castle. There was a bed in the center of the room, and she motioned for him to lie down. He did as she asked, and she began to sing a soothing lullaby. He felt himself drift off to sleep, feeling incredibly relaxed and content. When he awoke, he was in his own bed back in his village. He thought it had all been a dream, but he felt a strange sense of peace and contentment that he had never felt before. He realized that the woman in the castle had been a guardian angel, sent to him to help him find his inner peace. From that day on, he was a changed man. He was more relaxed and content than ever before. He and his wife grew closer together, and they shared many happy years together. The husband was never able to find the castle again, but he never forgot the woman and the peace she had brought him. He often told the story of his dream to his children and grandchildren, reminding them to never forget the power of dreams and the beauty of finding inner peace. Next story. Once upon a time, there was a young woman named Emily who lived in a small town in the countryside. She had grown up in the same place her entire life and had never ventured far from home. She was content with her life and enjoyed the simplicity of her days. One day, Emily decided to take a walk in the woods that bordered her town. She had never been there before, but she had heard stories of the mysterious creatures that were said to live there. She was excited to explore the unknown, and she set off with a sense of adventure. As Emily walked through the woods, she noticed a small cottage tucked away in a clearing. She had never seen it before, and it seemed to be abandoned. Curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to explore the cottage. The inside of the cottage was surprisingly neat and tidy, and Emily was amazed by the amount of care that had been taken to maintain it. She noticed a large book on the table, and she decided to take a look. The book was filled with stories of magical creatures, and Emily was captivated by the tales. She read about fairies, elves, and other mythical creatures, and she found herself wishing she could travel to the places described in the stories. After a few hours of reading, Emily heard a noise coming from outside. She rushed to the window and saw a small figure walking towards the cottage. Emily was terrified, but she was also curious. She decided to stay and find out who the figure was. The figure turned out to be an old man, and he had a kindly face. He introduced himself as the Wizard of the Woods, and he told Emily that he had been watching her ever since she had entered the woods. He said that he had sensed her curiosity and bravery, and he wanted to reward her by granting her a wish. Emily thought long and hard about what she wanted, and eventually she decided that she wanted to travel to the magical places she had read about in the book. The wizard smiled and waved his wand, and suddenly Emily found herself in a beautiful forest full of fairies, elves, and other mythical creatures. Emily spent the next few days exploring the magical world, and she made many new friends along the way. She even met a handsome prince who took her on an adventure to a distant castle. When it was time to go home, Emily was sad to leave the magical world behind, but she knew that she would always have the memories of her time there. She thanked the wizard for granting her wish and said goodbye. The next morning, Emily awoke to find that she was back in her own bed, safe and sound. She realized that the magical world had been a dream, but she was still filled with a sense of wonder. She had learned so much during her adventure, and she was grateful for the experience. From that day on, Emily never forgot the magical world she had visited, and she always kept a special place in her heart for the wizard who had granted her wish. The end.